His hands will not stop shaking. That is the first thing you notice when Staff Sergeant Jerome Washington sits down across from you. Not his eyes, not the set of his jaw, his hands. Flat on the table, pressing down like he is trying to hold something still that refuses to be held. Nobody is bleeding in this room. That is the part that is almost impossible to explain to someone who has never been outside the wire. There is no incoming, no casualty, no decision that needs to be made in the next 4 seconds. Just 2 people in a small room on a FOB in Kandahar province, and one of them has not slept more than 2 hours a night in 3 weeks. The other one is you. You are an Army Combat Stress Control Officer, clinical psychologist, forward deployed. And the man sitting across from you has already decided, before you said a single word, that this is a waste of his time, and that you could not possibly understand what he has seen. He is not wrong to think that. You do not argue with it, you do not correct it. You let it sit in the room between you like a third person, and you start talking about softball. His daughter is 8 years old. She plays third base. 3 weeks ago, his platoon hit an IED in a compound outside Maiwand, and 2 men did not come home. Since that morning, Jerome Washington has been present at every formation, every briefing, every mission debrief, hands flat on every surface, pressing down. His first sergeant did not send him here because Washington asked to come. His first sergeant sent him here because the hands. You build the session around a walk-off hit in the 5th inning, and for exactly 45 seconds, the pressure behind his eyes changes. Not gone. Changed. You have worked with enough soldiers to know the difference. This is not the hardest case you will see this week. The hardest one has not walked through the door yet. 40 kilometers. That is the distance between this man's chest and the nearest surgeon. But not 40 kilometers on a highway. 40 kilometers through the Kunar River Valley at night, through terrain that does not forgive the difference between a good decision and a slow one. You are not thinking about the distance. You stopped thinking about the distance the moment you dropped to your knees. You are an 18 Delta, a Special Forces medical sergeant. And the math of this moment is simple in the way that only impossible things can be simple. Tension pneumothorax building on the left side, pulse thready and dropping, 1 needle, 1 chance to let the pressure out before the lung collapses completely and takes everything else with it. Second intercostal space, midclavicular line, you find the landmark with your fingers before your headlamp confirms it. You have done this enough times that your hands know the geography of a human chest the way a musician knows the neck of an instrument. You push the needle in, you feel the resistance, then you feel it release. The hiss of trapped air escaping is the best sound in the world. You move to the chest wound, pack it, seal it, start a line in his arm. You talk to him the entire time, not because talking steadies you, because talking keeps him conscious. And conscious is the only direction you are interested in traveling right now. Your kit weighs 31 pounds. You carried it 11 miles to get here. Inside it, capabilities that a standard combat medic is not authorized to carry because you are not a standard combat medic. The 18 Delta pipeline began in 1952 alongside the Green Berets themselves, built on a single recognition. The men who go where no conventional unit follows cannot wait for help that will not come. You spent nearly 2 years in training before you touched a patient in a combat zone. Clinical rotations in a civilian trauma center, suturing lacerations on strangers in San Antonio at midnight, watching surgeons crack a chest open, not because you would become a surgeon, but because you needed to understand what a surgeon understands when there is no surgeon available. That understanding lives in your hands right now. The medevac is 22 minutes out. You have made 22 minutes survivable. That is the only equation that matters. There is one item in your kit you have never had to use in the field. You check his pulse again. Strong enough. Tonight it stays in the bag. The first time you heard it in a classroom, the instructor's voice changed. Not louder, not softer, something else. Like a man reading a name off a headstone he has visited before. You did not understand it then. You understand it now every single time you key the radio and say it out loud. Dust off 7, inbound, 8 minutes. The call sign has history that does not stay in the past. Major Charles Kelly coined it in 1963, commander of the 57th Medical Detachment in Vietnam, a man who flew into landing zones that other pilots marked as unacceptable, not because he did not understand the risk, because there was a wounded soldier on the ground, and understanding the risk was never the same thing as accepting its conclusion. Kelly was killed in action in 1964, still descending into a hot landing zone, refusing to leave without the man he came for. The entire medevac community took his call sign and carried it forward, through every conflict, every theater, every night flight, through every mountain valley where the ceiling was too low and the decision was too fast, and somebody on the ground needed to hear that sound of rotors and know that someone was coming anyway. You carry it now. You feel it every time. Chief Warrant Officer Webb is threading the UH-60 through a valley in Logar Province at dusk, and you are in the back with Specialist Aaron Tran, 22 years old, bilateral amputations at mid-thigh, traumatic brain injury suspected, blood pressure crashing in the wrong direction. When you cut away his uniform to get to the wounds, something falls from his pocket. A photograph. Small, folded once. A woman and 2 children standing in front of a house with a red door. You put it inside your vest pocket. You do not think about why. You tourniquet both residual limbs, adjust where the ground medic's work needs tightening, push fluids, check his airway, note the right pupil sluggish but reactive, relay everything forward to the trauma surgeon waiting at the FOB. Webb drops the collective hard. You grab a handhold. The aircraft touches down. You hand Specialist Tran off in 45 seconds. Mechanism, injuries, interventions, vitals, changes en route, clean, fast, complete. You will not remember his name in 6 months. You will remember the red door, 41 degrees Fahrenheit. That is the temperature of the water below you. Not cold in the way that the word cold usually means. Cold in the way that the body begins a quiet negotiation with itself about what is truly necessary and what can be surrendered. You are dangling from a rescue hoist 60 feet above the North Atlantic, and the deck of the cargo vessel below you is pitching 15 degrees side to side, and the hoist operator above you is reading the swell rhythm, timing the window, and you are waiting with him because you have learned something that took 2 years of the hardest pipeline in the United States military to teach you. Patience and urgency are not opposites. They live in the same place. Inside every good PJ, they occupy the same square inch of the chest, and the only thing that separates a rescue from a recovery is knowing which one to listen to and exactly when. The pipeline to earn the Maroon Beret was engineered not just to train you, but to locate the specific reason you would quit. Indoctrination at Lackland. Army Airborne, Combat Dive School in Panama City, Military Freefall at Fort Bragg, Paramedic Certification, the Special Operations Combat Medic Course. Each phase a different door opening downward into something harder than what came before. One man in your class quit on the final day. Not the first week, not the first month. The final day. You have thought about that more than you expected to, not with judgment, with something closer to recognition. He understood exactly what it cost. He made a different calculation. You made yours. The deck steadies for 3 seconds. The operator reads it. You drop. The crew takes you below. The patient is conscious, pale, abdomen rigid and exquisitely tender in the right lower quadrant. Temperature 101.4. You have seen this presentation enough times to know what it is before the examination confirms it. You start a line, push fluids, administer antibiotics, improvise a litter from equipment on the vessel. You explain every step in the calmest voice you have. He asks if he is going to be okay. You do not answer the question he asks. You answer the question underneath it, the one he does not have words for yet. You tell him you are taking him somewhere that can fix this. That is the truth. That is the only promise available, and it is enough. 40 minutes later, you are climbing away from the ocean, soaking wet, back against the bulkhead, hands still running the post-rescue checklist in your head. That others may live, not a motto, a mortgage. The night before the ambush, you sit alone and recite them, not out loud, in your head, in the dark, in the order they sleep in the barracks. Every blood type, every allergy, every injury being quietly managed so the battalion surgeon does not find out. You have been with 1st Battalion, 5th Marines for 7 months, and you know these men in a way that has no name in any field manual ever written. You know who has a bad knee. They have been hiding since 29 Palms. You know who cries when they think the building is empty. You know who will sprint toward the sound of gunfire before the order is given, not because they are fearless, because they have made a specific and private peace with what might happen when they get there. You know things about these men that their wives do not know. You know things they do not know about themselves. You are a Navy hospital corpsman attached to the Marines. You are not a Marine. That distinction matters to exactly nobody when the patrol takes fire on the eastern side of the road in Fallujah. You are already moving before the echo of the first shot finishes. Lance Corporal David Reyes is down in the road. Right thigh, femoral territory. You cover 15 feet without deciding to cover 15 feet. Tourniquet 2 inches above the wound, pulled tight. You uncap the marker with your teeth and write the time on his forehead. Your fingers are steady. You notice this the way you notice weather. It is information, not comfort. He screams. You breathe. That exchange, his scream and your breath, is the entire job compressed into 2 seconds. He is conscious. Conscious means perfusion. Perfusion means time. Time is the only currency that matters on this road right now. You drag him behind a concrete wall. Secondary survey. Left shoulder through and through. Non-arterial. Pack it, wrap it, back on the radio. M4 on your back. Trauma kit on your chest. One for the war. One for what the war does to the men fighting it. The firefight lasts 11 more minutes. You treat 4 casualties. 2 urgent. 1 you hold together Ian, Will alone, while the medevac negotiates the ground fire. It does not get waved off. Reyes gets loaded. The helicopter lifts. You will not know if he survived for 14 months. There is a village in the Helmand River Valley that does not appear on any coalition map. Not because no one has been there, because no one decided it was worth the ink. 800 people, 1 dirt road that is mined for 6 months of every year. The closest Afghan physician is a 3-hour drive away, assuming the road is passable, assuming the physician is available, assuming the patient can survive the drive. They often cannot. You are an independent duty corpsman embedded with a Marine Corps civil affairs team. Your medical authority exceeds what most people outside this valley would believe a military medic is permitted to carry. You assess, you diagnose, you treat. No physician physically present, no second opinion available. When the satellite link is down and the decision cannot wait, you make the call yourself. You completed physician assistant level coursework before you were certified to practice independently in the field. Rotations through emergency medicine, obstetrics, surgery, primary care. A practicum under a naval flight surgeon who told you on the last day that the most important thing he could teach you was the difference between what you know and what you think you know. You think about that sentence more than he probably intended. Today, the patient is a 9-year-old girl named Sarah. Her mother carried her 3 miles through the valley because the child could not walk. You will think about those 3 miles for the rest of this tour, what that walk looked like, what it cost. What it means that you are the thing at the end of it. The right leg is swollen from mid-femur to the knee, hot to the touch, mottled discoloration beginning to map itself across the skin. This has been progressing for days. You reach for the portable ultrasound, the one the size of a paperback novel, the one you held for the first time in training and thought looked like something from a toy store. It has never looked like a toy since. You aspirate the joint under sterile conditions. The fluid is cloudy, infected. You already knew IV antibiotics. Splint, emergency transport arranged through your civil affairs commander. Clinical handoff note transmitted by satellite link so the provincial hospital knows exactly what is arriving before she does. 3 weeks later, a local health worker tells your interpreter that the girl is walking. You are already treating the next patient. You are not waiting for a medical system to arrive. You are the medical system. At 36,000 feet, the physics of medicine change. Pressure differentials expand trapped gas in body cavities. Equipment calibrated for sea level performs differently in a pressurized cabin at altitude. A ventilator setting that was correct on the ground requires constant human adjustment up here because the machine does not know where it is. You do. You are the critical care flight nurse on tonight's CCAT team aboard a C-17 Globemaster configured not for cargo, but for the 3 most critically injured soldiers currently in the United States military's care. 8 litter positions. Medical equipment bolted to floor and ceiling, so turbulence does not turn it into a projectile. 9 hours to Ramstein Air Base in Germany. 3 patients. 4 people responsible for delivering all of them alive. You are one of the 4. The first patient is a double amputee post-surgical hemodynamically stable, but requiring continuous monitoring for compartment syndrome in the residual limbs. The second is a traumatic brain injury, sedated, intubated, on a ventilator you're managing manually because altitude makes the machine less less reliable than your hands. The third is burns, 23% body surface area, conscious and significant pain, requiring IV analgesic titration that you adjust every 20 minutes based on numbers that keep moving. You move between the three of them in a rhythm that looks like calm from the outside. It is not calm. Calm suggests the situation does not require urgency. This situation requires urgency at every single moment. What you have developed over years of training and deployments is something different. Competence is not the absence of fear. It is fear that has been assigned a task and knows exactly where to report. At hour 3, the burns patient's blood pressure drops. You catch it 30 seconds before the monitor alarms because you checked him 30 seconds before the number changed. That 30 seconds is not instinct. It is 2 years of critical care training made visible in a single moment that no one in this aircraft will ever see as the thing it actually is. You adjust the drip, increase the fluid bolus, reassess in 5 minutes, the number returns. At hour 7, the TBI patient's intracranial pressure waveform trends wrong. You call the physician forward. Together, you adjust sedation and positioning in the dark of the aircraft cabin. Hands finding settings by feel. The waveform normalizes. The C-17 touches down at 0330. 3 handoff reports, sequential, clean, every intervention documented, nothing missing. All 3 patients are alive. You collect your gear. The aircraft turns around in 6 hours. You do not know which of them will be back in surgery by morning. You are already strapped in. There is no nameplate on this door. There is no door. There is a hardened room at a forward operating base in northeastern Syria, a modified litter frame where a table should be, portable surgical lamps on stands, and 2 people who have done this together in 7 countries without ever needing to discuss how they work. Nobody in this room wears rank insignia. That is not an oversight. Rank slows a room down, and this room cannot be slow. You are a surgeon. You are also a special operations officer. Both things are simultaneously true, and both are required for this specific version of this specific job. Oh, your anesthesiologist is Major Kevin Doshi. Right now, he is laying out his airway equipment with the precision of a man who has configured this exact setup in 11 different countries. You have watched him do it in 7 of them. You have never once seen his hands hesitate. You have never told him that. He already knows. The soft concept was built from a hard lesson. Somalia, 1993. Conventional medevac assets could not keep pace with the speed and isolation of direct action missions. The answer that emerged was a forward surgical capability that moved with the assault force. 2 people, whatever space was available. A bombed out building, a shipping container, a vehicle with the back seats folded down. Tonight it is this room the casualty arrives at 2240. Sergeant First Class Michael Carver, Green Beret. Gunshot wound to the abdomen, entry right upper quadrant, no exit wound. Blood pressure 74 systolic and falling. His right hand is still loosely curled around his radio. The 18 Delta who stabilized him did everything right. 2 large bore IVs, 2 liters of blood product already running. He bought you the time. That is the relay. That is how this system works when every person in it does their part exactly as trained. Now it is your time. You open in under 2 minutes. Grade 3, liver laceration, right lobe, active bleeding, packet, direct pressure, temporary clamp on the hepatic artery. Doshi holds the pressure above 70 with vasopressors and blood product. You do not speak much. Communication between you has compressed over 7 countries into something close to wordless. 38 minutes, damage control phase complete. You do not repair, you control. Stop the bleeding, stop the contamination. Make him stable enough to survive the transfer to a surgical team that can close what you have only interrupted. Temporary abdominal closure, negative pressure dressing, 2-minute operative report to the flight medic team. You hand SFC Carver off. Then you turn around. There is a second casualty behind him. You are not the destination. You are the distance between the wound and the place that can make it survivable. You are the bridge. And the bridge does not get to rest until everyone is crossed. The most dangerous thing in this story does not have a wound. It has a flight plan. Captain James Hollet is an F-35A pilot with thousands of flight hours, a spotless record, and a mild sinus headache he has already decided is not worth mentioning, except that he mentioned it, which means some part of him already knows. He sits in your clinic at Al Dhafra Air Base in the United Arab Emirates and tells you he wants to fly this afternoon. The squadron is 2 aircraft short. The mission matters. He is not wrong about any of that. You are a USAF flight surgeon and you are about to ground him. Sinus barotracheal barotrauma does not announce itself on the ground. Trapped air in the paranasal sinuses expands during ascent as cabin pressure drops, then compresses sharply on descent. If the sinuses are not fully clear, the pressure differential on the way down creates pain that arrives suddenly, severely, and without warning inside a cockpit where a distracted pilot is the last variable anyone can afford. A disoriented F-35 at 500 knots over the Persian Gulf is not a medical event. It is a final event. You ground him. He is not happy. His squadron commander calls. Also not happy. You absorb both reactions with the steadiness of someone who has had this exact conversation before and understands that your job is not to be liked. Your job is to keep pilots alive long enough to keep flying. Those two things occasionally require the same decision to look like an obstacle. 48 hours later, Captain Holkai sits in your clinic again for the pressure equivalency test. You watch the gauge. He watches you watching the gauge. He passes. Full flight status restored. He walks to his aircraft and stops at the base of the ladder. Turns back once, finds you on the ramp. One nod. No words. No acknowledgement of what the last 2 days almost contained. You nod back. The canopy seals. The engines spool up. You stand on the ramp until the aircraft is a shape against the sky. Then a sound, then nothing at all but the smell of jet exhaust and the particular silence that follows something that nearly went wrong and did not. He is airborne. That is the job. The debrief will last 40 minutes. Every call sign will be named. Every objective marked. Every decision reviewed under fluorescent light by men with coffee and clipboards and the comfortable distance of people who were not there. The report will name the unit will name the mission will name the ground taken and the ground held and the men who held it. It will not name you. Not because anyone forgot, because that is the architecture. That is how this system was designed and why it works. The foundation does not appear in the photograph of the building. It does not need to. It only needs to hold. Somewhere right now, an 18 Delta is on his knees in a village that does not appear on any map, and the needle is in, and the hiss of escaping air means the lung is expanding and the math is working. Somewhere, a corpseman has just written a time on a man's forehead, and the man is conscious, and conscious is enough. Somewhere, Dust-Off 7 is inbound, and the soldiers on the ground can hear the rotors, and that sound is the only thing between them and a very different outcome. Somewhere, a surgeon with no nameplate is 38 minutes into a damage control procedure in a room with no door, and the bridge is holding. Somewhere, a 9-year-old girl is walking. Somewhere, a pilot is airborne who almost was not. Somewhere, a man's hands have stopped shaking. No report, no record, no name in the after action. Just the living proof of people who made a decision once at the beginning of a very long pipeline and renewed it every single day in every country, in every conflict without being asked twice. Not the absence of recognition, a choice. The choice that the work itself is the reward, that saving a life in the dark with no witness matters as much as anything that will ever be written down in the history of this country. They were there last night. They are there right now. They will be there tomorrow before you wake up. That is what military medicine does.